Hello all, good afternoon, very good afternoon to you all. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. It's online branding, practical ways to reach your customers. Today with us we have Radhakrishnan and Nilesh Patel and also Meenu and Lakshmi, and so look forward to a very interesting session. And guys, one more thing, on the right hand side, attendees, please note that on the right hand side of the panel there's a handout called Online Branding Webinar Handout. We would like you to download it and please read it and send us your replies to it on the chat box that appears on the right side of the panel. We'd be happy to take those questions and your feedback for that. Nilesh, over to you.
Thank you, Lakshmi, and thank you all for joining us today. This is a very special session we have today on how businesses can go about doing online branding. I am Nilesh Patel, founder and CEO of LeadSquared, and I'm joined here today by RK, who is the founder of Web Namaste. It's a marketing agency, and he's been running this business for over 5 years. And has accidentally become a marketer. I was never planning to be, was a biotechnologist, and became a marketer. So would love to welcome RK. RK, thank you for joining in.
Thank you, Nilesh, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So RK, before we kind of go into the the meat of the session, I think meanwhile we'll just wait for people, for participants to kind of download the the webinar handout so that we can get some questions coming in. But tell us a little bit about how all it started. I mean, I saw that you worked with Position 2 for a while, and then what was the kick you got? Like, what was the reason you started off on your own path, like on the path of being an entrepreneur? How it all started?
Thanks, Nilesh, for the question. So it's actually a very interesting thing that, since my childhood, I always wanted to, do something with a lot of impact. And digital marketing or, about web designing and things like that, I started with in a very early age. So I designed my first website when I was in 10th standard. And that was in 2001. And
wow.
It's just that, like I just got into biotechnology by hearing to my parents and, my relatives who recommended that course, saying that it would be the future because IT is saturating and it is going to die out eventually, and that I should focus on something which is more innovative and off the path. And then, but I think on the second year, like you introduced, I met with an accident which immobilized me for 3 months, and that's when I started exploring the world of digital marketing, and it really got me hooked in because you can see the results immediately, and then I found a flow in it. For example, when I started working on it, I could not understand the time, how the time passes. I often forgot to eat my breakfast or lunch. It just got me really hooked in, and then for hours together, the whole night I would actually sit and learn about it. So by the time I graduated in 2008, I found that, okay, maybe this is my path and maybe I should hone my skills around it. So that's when I attended an interview in Position 2, which is in Bengaluru, and it gave me a really good opportunity to see how it really works and it really helps the clients in delivering results. And it was a great experience, and by the time almost a year passed, and then I was also working in my as a freelancer for a few companies. So what happened was my sister got married and she came to Bangalore, and my parents in Calicut. I'm actually from Calicut, so I had to come to Calicut because my parents was not feeling really well, and then they wanted me back. And I started with just 500 square feet area in Calicut. Actually, in Bangalore, I set it up and ran it for 1 year with just 2 employees and a 300 square feet studio apartment. And in 2010, I moved back to Calicut, and that is how we all began.
Well, that's a pretty interesting story. I mean, the good thing is I mean, 2001, I don't know what a website used to look like then, but I think, you know, a lot of stuff has changed in last probably 14, 15 years. I mean, everything has evolved from what it was to today. And I'm glad to, you know, have you today on this, you know, session. And, you know, when you, let's see if there are any questions coming in. Maybe we can take them before. Otherwise, we can just get started with the session. So a couple of just points I want to kind of mention for the audience is the session is being recorded, and you know, it will be sent over to all of you in 4 business days along with the presentation. And the any questions you have while the session is on, please feel free to you know, register your questions in the chat box. We'll be happy to address it during the session if we can, or we'll take it up you know, towards the end and ask RK about those questions. And that's pretty much it. We expect this to be about 40 to 50 minute session, including Q&A, and it may go up to an hour. So with that, RK, over to you. You know, let's get going.
Thank you so much, Nilesh. So I want to thank you all for taking your time out and attending this webinar. I understand that most of you will be celebrating the festival with your family, and then it's really special that you are with me here today. So before we begin, I would like to ask you to answer to me just 2 questions. What are the top 3 challenges of branding in your business? So you can answer to this on the chat option. You can see it on your screen on the right side on your control panel. You can get started by just listing out the top 3 challenges of online branding or branding in general. And the second question is, what do you want to learn from this webinar? It would really help so that I can customize my presentation according to what you want to hear rather than what I want to say. So if you can help me with answering these 2 questions, I can customize my presentation, and we can have a meaningful conversation. So I'm going to give you a minute.
Yeah, I've got some questions coming in already. So let me just, there's a question from Anjuman. You know, the question is, there is a lack of awareness about their academy. I think their business is probably in some form of a program for teaching or learning, you know, in any field. So they have this. So that's the question from Anjuman. So lack of awareness about their academy. So what can they do about it? I think that's one. So you want me to kind of give all the questions? You want to address them together, or how do you want to do it?
Right. I just have a quick overview of the questions. The thing is that here the questions are only appearing 1 line at a time. So it's I'm just trying to maximize the area. So yeah, I saw the question from.
Oh, you did.
Lack of awareness about the academy. Yes, I saw that. I'm just going to note these down so that during my presentation, I know, you know, what to answer to them.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, fine. So I'm glad that I'm going to address all of this in my presentation, actually. So I hope that it will be a very of great value to you. So let me just get started with the presentation. I hope you can see on my screen, right?
Yep.
So a little bit about me. I'm Radhakrishnan KG. I'm from Calicut, and I built a company called Web Namaste. And it's been 6 years since we started the operations. And yeah, I'd be glad to take your questions at the end of the presentation, and let's just get started. So a brand, as mentioned by Seth Godin, is a set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that, when taken together, account for the customer's decision to choose one product or service over the other. So it's the basic definition for a brand. But when it comes to online branding, it's just the same thing taken with the right mix of online channels on how to influence your target audience to take action or the desired action that you want. So let's get started about what is the factors that is affecting online branding. So these days, our customers have a lot of choices, right? I even find myself in the supermarket when I don't know what to decide to buy. I read the reviews on my smartphone and also look if there is a better discount available online on Amazon or something, you know, on Flipkart, before I even buy the product from the supermarket. So I basically go see if, touch and feel the product, and if I like it, I buy it online. So I know that I'm doing a crime there, because going to supermarket and not buying the things that I wanted to do and rather shopping it online. But that's where the world is moving. Especially this holds good, if you go to an electronics store, you just want to see how the new model of Xbox or Nintendo, you want to play and you want to see how it feels. And then you go online and you buy it for 20 or 30% cheaper. So that is how much online branding is evolving right now. And these days, the consumers are always confused on what to use, because there's so much of options available. So wherever we turn to, we see the brands competing with another to get a place in your home. So I would call that, we are a generation of consumers. It's not consumers, but we are consumers because we are confused. And to add on to that, we also have such a lot of clutter, digital clutter all around us, which is actually making us more confused than we regularly are. So how can the brands be distinctive? How can they step up? That is what we are going to discuss in this webinar right now. So these are the several stages of how a customer perceives a brand. So when you start out, let's say you're a business owner and you are doing branding, and then you just want your target audience to know that you exist in the market. So the consumer knows that you exist, and then when they consistently see your brand, and when they know that you stand for something, you are actually known. That if someone thinks about a particular thing, and your brand automatically comes to their mind. Once they buy it, they actually care about it and how much they liked you and how much your brand changed, their quality of living. And then comes to a level where they say that, your brand actually represents them. And then, even if you do something wrong, your audience are ready to forgive you. And then comes to a level wherein they even start defending you on public medium, like on social media, and on discussion forums and so forth. So this is how your brand creates an impact in your target audience. So let's discuss what hasn't changed in such a long time when the branding actually started. So the big brands are always trying to create a relationship, a real relationship with their target audience. And the brand also represents the particular audience. For example, you would have seen the bikers with Harley Davidson tattoos on their body. So the brand has influenced them so much that we are ready to ink the brand onto their body for a life, for their own whole life. So you also can see people wearing Reebok t-shirts and Starbucks cap. That's how much they are trying to inculcate the brand into their own living, daily living. So these things have not changed, and this will never change in the future. So what really has changed? It has become so easy for a brand to establish their identity using several digital channels available online. So if, like I told you earlier, in the supermarket example, even though when I'm in the supermarket, I would search for things online before I make a purchase decision. If I'm doing this for even such a small things, like 500 rupees or less than $10, imagine if you have to decide investing, let's say $1,000 or 60,000 rupees on some product, you would obviously do some research online and see what the others are talking about the brand and if it's a worthwhile investment. So consumers can reach a brand through various channels like search, social, hashtags on Twitter, videos on YouTube, and Amazon reviews. For an example, typically 120 billion searches happen per year on Google, and that is out of 2 billion internet users, and 60 internet searches per year per user is being searched online. So most of it are related to products and brands. So you can see that how much of research is going through where the customers or your target audience to find you or find a product. And even on YouTube, about 3.5 hours of videos are being watched per year per user. So which is again related to product unboxing, let's say reviews. I'm sure that a lot of us have already used YouTube for researching about the brand before buying it online. Especially this is true in the case of mobile phones and computers. So let's see how a few brands are eliciting emotions to spread to make their identity on the customer's minds. So this is actually a beautiful example. Usually people don't even talk about death, right? But let's see how a funeral insurance company in Netherlands, have created a great brand identity by eliciting emotions in the customer's minds.
The most beautiful words are often spoken when someone has passed away. Such a shame because the person they talk about can no longer hear them. For the funeral insurance company Deloitte, we came up with an idea. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. We gave people the opportunity to say something wonderful to someone they really care about, and they were completely taken by surprise. We filled speeches with hidden cameras and created some extraordinary commercials with real people, no actors, honest and sincere.
Heel graag toedragen aan mijn ouders. Bedankt me ook wat die leven die lang hebben afgesloten voor mij. Maar je leven die mij altijd ik heb nooit van gedacht, maar ik vind het ook. Ik moet je heel erg bedanken voor je moed en je doorzettend vermogen. En voor alles wat jullie voor mij hebben gedaan.
Eigenlijk dank voor je jaren. En dan heel erg. Ik heb een aantal maanden getrouwd. En zelf. Maar ik zeg het waar. Ik hou. Then we gave everyone in Holland the chance to show their love and affection. We made ads with just the word dear. You were invited to fill in the rest yourself. The people of the Netherlands made immense use of this opportunity and uploaded their beautiful words to our special website. You can also share your words via the website or via Facebook. And we went further. From the written ads, we made posters for outdoor. Each poster was unique and was displayed in the area where the person it was meant for lived. And we went even further. On New Year's Eve, we
see one proposal.
gave people the chance to express their love live on TV. A wave of beautiful words swept over Holland, and we got the message across. It was picked up, talked about, and acted on. And the result? Deloitte captured a place in the list of the top 10 best-known brands in Holland, and the amount of insured capital grew by 50%. But the best result is that Holland grew and became more beautiful. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. Deloitte. For each.
Yes, so I hope that you were able to see the video. I understand that it might have not come through with the flow, but still, this is actually a great example of how a funeral insurance company, a company that deals with the death of people, it's the last thing that people would want to discuss and talk about. But they just created such an amazing and influential campaign on why wait until it's too late. Say something wonderful today. So this campaign, though it was of course very expensive, it was done in such a way that it integrated everything offline and online to create a great messaging for their target audience. And you can just imagine how much of an impact it would have created with their target customers. So let's look at other examples of how Ziploc, it's actually you would know what a Ziploc bag is. It's just like Seal King, wherein you can store your food or or your clothes inside it, and you can vacuum it and you can keep it for a longer time. So this is how Ziploc is doing it. There is about 8,360 results. People who have created a review or a creative method of how to use Ziploc into their lives. And then what Ziploc did is they just compiled all these videos in one place, and this is how they use the power of crowdsourcing to help to grow their brand with their target audience. The other example is GoPro. Did you see that they joined the YouTube only in the year 2009, but if you see, they have over 3 million subscribers and about 941 million views, right? This is all possible because they just compiled, or they just curated all these content from several of the users and put them all on their channel. So this is the level of branding which can happen when you go to your target audience and choose the online medium to promote your brand. So let's talk about, GoPro and Ziploc being such a big brand, it may not really be useful of how a small startup, or how companies like ours can get started online. So let's see practical ways with which we can reach their level. So thanks to the online channels, we have equal opportunity to play. So no matter how small we are, we still can get started at a very, very low cost. So we must never think that only huge brands can access to these channels of branding, because it's become so easy for anyone to access with this distinct voice and a mission, so that you can easily get your message across via blogging, by videos and by social media. So the opportunity is just unlimited, and then you can even get started with a $0 budget. The main point, though, however, is to understand your customers. In the later part of the slides, you'll understand why it is not necessary to please everyone. It's not really required for you to have a wide range of target audiences. You can just get started with creating three personas or 3 target audience list with whom we can create a relationship with in the beginning and then go from there. So the easiest way to get started with branding is just launch a campaign. It need not be very clever or catchy, but it just needs to be creative and something which can relate to your target audience. Launch it, get the feedback, iterate from there, and then restart. This is just a simple thing. Most often, the biggest mistake that we do is to wait until it's too long, thinking about very small details like the color of the logo, or the look of the product, or whatever. So that's the biggest mistake that we do. I hope that Nilesh will agree with me if I say that LeadSquared would not have been possible if he dwelt upon too little details like the color of the logo or the font size and things like that for his product. So it's very important to get started with a minimum viable product, or which can just get started. So then based on the feedback that you get from the customers, you can always iterate that. So the biggest mistake that we should never do is to think about the tiny details too much and just get started with it, and then be ready to change it over the course of time. So according to my experience, the 5 best channels for online branding starts with search. It's very important that you are visible in front of your target audience when someone searches for you. So just make sure that your website or your online identity is visible for your people when they search for you. You can do it with the paid advertising like Google AdWords for the beginning, and eventually with time, by optimizing your website for the keywords, you can also get a top placement for on the search results. And you can get started with videos. It's so easy to rank your videos on Google search results these days because of the blended search. Google wants you to stay in their own products. So it's not very uncommon to see a lot of brands dominating the whole first page of Google search results when you search for something related to their brand. So you can also get started with using Facebook and YouTube targeted advertising, social ads to start creating an impact on your target audience and start collecting leads and creating a nurturing relationship with them. And for people who did not take any action on your website and just left the website without taking any action, you can use the power of retargeting to reach them again, all over again. You would have seen that if after booking, after searching for a flight on yatra.com, you go to any other websites on the internet and you will see the ads with the destination that you try to search for. So they're not going to leave you until you buy a ticket from them. So it's that's what you can do to re-engage with your customers even when they did not take an action in the first time. And then using the power of email marketing. Email marketing still is the #1 way to establish relationship with your customers on a continual basis by providing value. So permission-based marketing using email is definitely something which will reaffirm your brand to your target audience all over again. So how to deal with multiple channels? So we discussed about the top 5 channels. So just a few things to get started here. The success almost depends upon the choice of channels used. So for example, if you are on B2B business, it's more likely to get more conversions and engagement on LinkedIn than Facebook, because the intent of the people who come to Facebook is just to keep in touch with their friends and family, and their intent might not be to do business with you. But on LinkedIn, you can find audience who are actually looking to grow their professional network and look for opportunities there. So you need to find out how your product is going to be engaged, and see if it's going to be more engaged on business networks or on social relationship based networks like Facebook and Twitter. So it's very important to target your audience, because if you don't choose your audience first, you are actually planning for failure. So the best way that you can get started is to create a persona. You define the imaginary identity of your target audience and see where they hang out the most. And make sure that your marketing messages or branding messages are targeted towards your persona. And focus more on conversions. When I talk about conversions in traditional media, for example, newspaper advertisements and on radio and on television, you have no idea if your advertisements, or branding activities have taken any results. But using online media, you can easily track how much of them viewed your ads, or your branding initiatives, and how many of them have actually clicked through and reached the website, and how many of them bought it or signed up for your mailing list. So you can actually drill down entirely on the reach and the audience list and how much your marketing budget have given you the results. So then from there you can optimize until you get it right. So like I mentioned before, it's very, very important to get started. So always start lean. You don't need a $1 million budget to get started. You can just start with as low as, I don't know, 1,000 rupees. Find freelancers or someone who can get this job done for you as quick as possible, and then from there you can grow. So make sure that you pay close attention to your audience. Spend more time with them and see how they have interacted. Use services like SurveyMonkey or other free survey providers, so that you can understand how much your branding initiatives have impacted them. You can track everything, and then finally you have to innovate all the time too. Innovation need not be very complex. It could be all about doing the same thing a little different. So this is how you can use Google Analytics for tracking your conversions. I'm just going to play half of this video.
When someone visits your website and does something you want them to do, like buy an item or visit a certain page, it's called a conversion. And as a marketer, you've probably set up conversion tracking to see what's working. Usually, the last ad, search, or referral clicked on directly before the conversion gets all the credit. In reality, a conversion is a lot like scoring a goal in a basketball game. It takes more than one player to make it happen. If you are coaching a team, you want to see all the players who assisted in the goal, so you can identify how they interacted and score again and again, right? It's the same in online marketing. If you think of the marketing channels that drive traffic to your site as your players, the ones making the assists, are often just as important as the one making a goal. The ways your customers interact with your channels are all part of the marketing funnel leading to conversion. Often, your customers engage more with these channels than they do with the final click that's getting all the credit. Imagine being able to see how your customers interacted with all of your channels before the conversion. Just like a coach, you'd be able to identify channels making music and optimize your marketing for more conversions. So now you can with multi-channel funnels, new in Google Analytics.
Okay, the multi-channel funnels was new in Google Analytics about 3 years ago, and it's not new anymore. But this is how you can actually understand that. Maybe, for example, an online course. Okay, maybe Udemy promoted their online course on a paid medium on LinkedIn. That is how maybe I as a customer or a potential customer would have known about them. But then when I clicked on them and I signed up for their or registered on their website, but then they started sending me more emails, and then I also liked them on Facebook, so I also get their update. But I would not have become their customer until I saw a special deal on Facebook. So Facebook is just the third or fourth instance that I'm looking at their brand. But it took me 3 or 4 instances for me to make a buying decision. So you now can understand how important it is to use all the channels available on the internet, so that because you don't know which instance will trigger the action that you want from your customer. So raising awareness is just the first part, but then being consistent with your messaging is very important when it comes to branding. So please do not get confused when I say that I'm using the branding as a synonym for marketing, because branding is no more something which stands alone or which is acting by its own. Branding is actually a combination of your marketing, your messaging, your sales activities, your relationship building. Everything is related to branding, because brand is nothing but how a customer perceives you or a potential audience perceives you. So if you are not exceeding the customer's expectations, then it's not easy to win their loyalty. So let's talk about how to defend your online branding initiatives. Then your brand will reach a level when it kind of gets more users and user base, and then it is so important for you to understand the conversations that happens with how your audience are interacting with your brand. So let's talk about a few benefits of online branding. Let's say that you are advertising on TV and newspapers or radio. You have a specific budget allocated to it. With the same budget, you can get much more measurable impressions and interactions with your target audience when you choose online branding. So you can, like I mentioned before, you can measure the results, and because of all these messaging, you can also demand a premium pricing, which your competitors might be offering for much lesser cost. But then, because you have a higher perceived value with your target audience, you can often demand a premium pricing for the same product. And you can enjoy the reduced threat of competition, because then your perceived value of your product has increased. And there is a greater employee satisfaction, because your employees will be happy to be associated with a brand that stands for something. And of course, it enjoys a stronger recognition by your target audience. Now, the steps is to identify your super fans. See who are engaging a lot more with your product. I'm going to give you a very small example of how AirAsia found me, because I was promoting AirAsia's excellent service and the affordability on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. And I was approached by their social media manager, who told me that they are going to put me on an elite list of people who will get their sale notifications 24 hours advanced or earlier than the normal public. And all they want in advance is to give them more insights on how their perceived value was, from taking surveys and things. So I usually get surveys, very often from AirAsia on things that they're doing. They ask me to participate on their branding initiatives, and they closely listen to what I have to say. So you can do it as well, when you know that you have a few loyal list of people who vouch for you, who defend your brand. You have to listen to the conversations, like you can have a personal conversation on the phone, or even use services like SurveyMonkey or even Google Docs, Google Forms. And you can bring them inside your circle, woo them, create a small community, and make sure that you send them special offers now and then, and make it easy for them to share your offers and your communication on their social media. And like I said, it's very important to create a small community so that all your activities and all your branding initiatives can be easily taken feedback. So the 5 effective ways to promote, or start with your online branding is to keep engaged through emails. That's a very, very effective method to actually get started, with online branding. So the moment you start your campaign, you make sure to use a marketing automation tool like LeadSquared, or there are a lot of services available. So you can create an email list and then create a campaign with content created to reach them out at specific points of time. Then you can create a community like on Google Plus. You have a beautiful community, but unfortunately it is being shut down. And but you can also build a membership site inside your community so that you can keep them engaged all the time. You can use affiliate marketing to further your cause. You can offer them special links where it can be tracked on. If someone shares your that special link with their the referral network, when they buy it, your ambassador will get a portion of the sales. So you also can introduce rewards program and contests, which will effectively increase your chances of reach. So a few takeaways to start building your brand. So like I said, the branding engagement starts from defining your core values and identity. If you don't make your brand stand for something, it will get so loose and it will not be associated with a strong cause. So you need to articulate it on all your communication on what is your brand standing for. And it is so important to create a unique and authentic voice with which you can communicate with your target audience. So once you find your core reason of existence or the vision and the values, you need to communicate with your target audience and connect with them. Find your best and most likely customers and give them a reason to follow you on social channels. And make sure that they understand what the brand stands for. And engage them by creating communities and making brand communications and content more personally relevant and engaging. And once you do that, start influencing them and inspiring them to share stories and messages about your brand. Give them the reasons to share what you share with them. After that, start integrating your activities on everywhere possible, on your website, on social media, and on your mailing list, and try to promote different channels from the different media. So, if there is something that I want to take away from this webinar, it is going to be this. Online branding is not about visibility, ubiquity, and functions. It's about bonding emotionally with your online users. A brand strength is built upon its determination to promote its own distinctive values and mission. So if you don't have a clear, written down mission and vision and what you stand for and your core values, it's not easy to communicate with your target audience. Because online branding is all about a cause. Because people need to connect with you, with your mission, so that they can turn into your brand ambassadors. So essentially, when you create a brand, you're actually creating your identity. So always ensure that your brand is associated with credible sources like Wikipedia, or you can even post guest blogging, initiatives on Huffington Post and all the leading publications on the internet. Focus on creating relationships, because it is often relationships that creates opportunities, because the sale is just the beginning of a relationship. So unless you consistently communicate with them, it is often doesn't produce result. So your network, is dependent on your network of people that you've built. So you always have to build it right. Maintain a consistent posting and publishing schedule, because like I told you, the purchase decision happens, or the several levels of the perceived value becomes relevant only when you reach to them on several occasions. So you need to play your strengths and also your weaknesses. For example, if you're really good at let's say video publishing, maybe because you have a strong team of video marketers or videographers, so you could definitely play your strength on that, but you might not have a strong PR team. So it might be better that you can outsource your PR initiatives to an agency and focus on your strengths, which is making videos. You need to know your audience very well. So I cannot emphasize enough on how much it is important to know your audience, because you need to, your whole strategy of branding is based around your audience. So you don't need to please anyone, please everyone. You just need to make sure that your brand is related to one particular set of audiences. And you need to be very consistent when you position your brand. Managing online reputation is also very important, because if you don't know what your customers are talking about you, you cannot really change your course of action. So use tools like Google Alerts and Hootsuite and the other social monitoring tools to understand what your customers are talking about. So you can get started with just creating an alert on your brand name on Google Alerts. Blogging is another way to reach your customers very quickly and effectively, and then by developing your own unique voice to reach them. And the other thing you can do today is to start optimizing your website and see what are the things that you can do to optimize your visibility on the internet. Alright, so here's how Apple does it. When it comes to brand, I think it's best to learn from the leaders. So how Apple does it is like, they have already defined their core reason of existence, because they believe in challenging the status quo. And when everyone was talking about increasing the functionalities, they focused on usability. So they said that our dream is to make sure that the computers are going to be personalized. And that's how they started their venture, by challenging the status quo, by creating beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly products. And what is the result? They just happen to make great computers. The next steps are to learn about your customers first. Maybe you might want to set up a meeting with your co-founders or your team and learn about the customers and create a persona. And then start positioning your brand. Make it stand for something. Learn guerrilla marketing, which is actually a very great tool to start with just the minimum required things, like you don't need to go all in for doing anything. So you can start with just the basic necessities, which is important for creating your reach. Learn copywriting, because copywriting is a powerful tool in any marketer's hand or a brand, the branding manager's hand, because if you are unable to connect with your audience with the correct messaging, then the whole branding initiative is wasted. And always be ready to test and experiment how your branding initiatives are performing. So I'm going to leave you with a few powerful questions for you and your brand. So what is your cause? Why do you even exist? What is your belief system? What will the world miss when you cease to exist? And why do you even get up every day in the morning? So when these questions were asked to me a few years ago, which really made me rethink and think about the way that we need to take. So I think you should definitely need to sit with your brand, your co-founders or your team members, and do this exercise for your brand, for your own sake, so that you can understand your vision and your mission and your reason of existence and why your customers or your consumers should come to you rather than your competition. So positioning your brand is very important, and that is where it all starts. So that's all about it, and then let's connect for questions. I'm just going to open up the question sections now.
Awesome, Market. This was a good in-depth session. There are a few very interesting points you mentioned, and I've got several questions in my mind which I wanted to kind of relate that from an audience standpoint. So I think while you read some of these questions, I have one question which I think some of the audience may already have. Is that
okay.
When we talk about branding, right? I mean, usually branding is associated largely, if I may say, with the companies with deep pockets, right? And I think you addressed that question in the beginning. So likes of Apple and whatnot, right? But if you go back, if we scale down to really a small business trying to sell up one or two product or some specialty, how does that because those the small businesses, right, or the mid-sized businesses, they probably offer 1, 2, or 3 products at max, and they sell probably in a small region. They're not like national or international kind of brand. So how does what are the practical tips for them? Because the reason I ask that question is, if you're a small business, right, you would not have 5 members in marketing team. You would probably be the business owner doing half of the thing yourself, or maybe there's a good idea to engage an agency. So there are so many things there. So how can what is the practical approach for them? Because all stuff is good, but how much they can actually get done, that's their real challenge, right? So what is your experience and your advice to the audience, who have these potential challenges?
Okay, fine. I understand the question. So it's very important that you get started with something which can create the maximum impact in the first in your first attempt. For that, blogging is a great way to actually promote your brand in a way that you with a very unique voice. So having a website is almost a prerequisite for any brand to even have a presence on the internet, right? So attaching a blog with your website could be a really good starting point, so that it can give a feel about what your brand stands for, and what are the areas that you can add value to your target audience. And once you have a sizable amount of blogs on your page, you can start promoting them on social media, and then you can use promoted boost, or boosted posts on Facebook to get started with, yeah.
Yeah, so this would be relevant for businesses whose audience is online, right? I mean, those audiences on social, right? But there could be businesses whose audience is not 100% on social. I'm sure there is some part. So I think for those businesses, what would you recommend?
All right. So the topic today, what I spoke about was mainly online.
Makes sense. No, I get the point. I think that's fair. No, I just keep coming in because we get these questions every day. So I just wanted to put it in front of you. I think there's another one. Which
absolutely. I understand. But then like I said, in online branding, when it comes to creating an impact, I think it's always best to go with something which is minimum viable product, so that they can start measuring results and they need not spend a lot of money on getting started.
Got it. I think the point which you mentioned just now, there's a question which has come up. It's basically how do you I mean, they're interrelated. The question is, what is the ROI on online branding? And I think when you say what, I think the question is, how do you measure the ROI from an online branding initiative? So what's your take on it?
Right. So I think Google Analytics is a really good tool to help you understand, how much your branding initiatives have, succeeded. So using a tracking tool, or you might even start using the marketing automation tool, so that you can actually start tracking all your sources of traffic, or your branding. So Facebook gives a really good idea about how much your message has spread across and what are the medium which are the groups or which are the groups of people that are engaging with your messaging. So you can get started with analyzing all these things with the tools which comes for free. For example, Google Analytics is one tool which you can get started with virtually anything can be tracked with it. And then if you're using LinkedIn or Facebook, you can also see how much of your communication has actually given you the results. So I think the tracking aspect of it can really help you to pinpoint what worked and what didn't work.
So in your experience, what people so all the tools you mentioned, I think that those definitely are very, very useful and important. So in your experience, what people measure, like what is that they measure? Do they measure website traffic? Do they measure number of leads generated? Do they measure number of sales which happen? Like what are the metric against which they would kind of say, okay, this is working for me?
All right. So the one metric which works really well is definitely looking at your impressions on the number of people or the number of instances that your target audience have been exposed to your brand. You can get started from that first, and then with the branding, you can also keep a metric for conversion there, because all these impressions and traffic, if it doesn't convert into something which you can actually viably track, for example, a lead generation exercise where you are trying to promote a contest to your audience, and then you ask them to fill in their email address so that you can continuously keep in touch with them. So in this, the successful metric would be to see the number of email conversions from your campaign. So start with the impressions. That is when, because it might take 3 or 4 instances for me to see that communication until I decide to give my email address, because I don't want anyone to spam me, right? But then it is very important that you get their email address. So I think it's very important to track your conversions as the viable metric to get started.
Got it.
Did I answer your question, Nilesh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more, just wanted to kind of get a sense in terms of what people can measure practically. Sometimes what happens is, being in a, businesses are busy people. I mean, the business owners are busy people. So they would not have, their eye will be only focused on 1 or 2 or 3 metric. So, obviously, which affects their business. So revenue obviously tends to be one of them. And then leads could be another one.
Yes, there are a lot of things, for the customer value, the cost per user, and things like that. But then that is pertaining mainly to the marketing efforts. But then for when you talk branding, it kind of involves everything into it, right? So I think when we delve very deep into the cost per acquisitions and the cost per action and things like that, it might even confuse the users on thinking that it is too complicated than it is. So instead of going for that, I think it's better that we get started at least with counting the impressions and the people who actually took an action on it. For example, watched the video, and after watching the video, they have entered the email address to get be a part of your list. And from there, you can start focusing on things like how much did you have to spend to onboard that visitor to your email list, and then the cost involved in converting that visitor or your email lead into a customer. So all these things can happen at a later stage.
Got it. So here is an interesting question, RK. I just read it. So this is from Shivani, and she's asking that so she's working for a stem cells banking blog, but what she's saying is that a lot of people are not aware of this concept, and the only way she's able to get the traffic is primarily from social media. That's what she's able to pull together today. So she's want to know what are the things she can try, and what are the things she can do to boost the audience for her blog. What are the ideas for that?
Okay, so I understand that her mainly the visibility is from her blogging and even social media, right?
Yes, that's correct. So blog she's writing, but the blog gets traffic. I mean, this is my kind of, I'm just taking a leap of faith here in my own thinking, and saying that what she's written. So what I understand is that she's a blog, and because the concept is kind of relatively new, and so the people
That's right.
she's trying to target is coming primarily from social media right now. So what are the other ways she can harness the traffic and increase the brand visibility
Right.
among her audience?
Absolutely. So to answer Shivani's question, I think she should get started with creating at least a couple of personas first. For example, it is very important to whom she writes to rather than what she writes. So it's important if, let's say, obviously, it could be a mother, who is going to conceive in the next, 6 months or 5 months, and then let's talk about, let's say she is between the ages of 25 to 30. Okay, and then what are the things that she might also be worried about, or or she is concerned? So she can, Shivani can put herself in the position of her target audience or the persona, and start writing about what are the things, that are the benefits, or how well she can connect with their target audience to address to their concerns and issues. So that way, she can also leave that, after writing the blog post, she also can leave the last message towards, something related to her business. So the whole of her content should be focused on providing a lot of value. And then at the end of the blog, she can leave it with a call to action, on things that maybe download a free ebook on parenting tips, or things like that, so that without even mentioning or hard selling her product, she can get the list based upon the nurturing relationship, and at a later stage she can start talking about the importance of preserving the umbilical cord and the stem cells and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the other thing she can, Shivani can try, and is there are other websites who may not be of competing in nature. They may be offering, they may be like pure content sites for.
That's right.
Yeah, so those partnerships one can look at. So maybe they have a guest column for writing a post.
Yes.
So you can probably prepare a post and submit there, and if they accept it, and so those would be interesting way to get some attention from that kind of audience. So obviously, as RK said, nailing the audience is important, because that will really decide what platform you choose to amplify the message. So I think these are some of the ideas. I think you can also again, depending on the budget, look at YouTube or the video advertising as a platform. I think that could be interesting as well, because there'll be certain online behavior which will be captured for that audience, and maybe you'll be able to segment that audience in Google advertising to kind of I don't know how narrow you can go there, but I think there is a possibility wherein you can sort of say women between, I'm sure, with age of 20 and 30, and then or 35, that kind of range you can select.
I think it's also possible to target a few videos in particular. For example, there are videos about pregnancy tips. So
Absolutely.
Just before that video starts rolling, she can have a TrueView ads or in-stream ads on YouTube, which will talk a little bit about, getting them signed up on their list, or something which will trigger an action from that particular ad. So she can pinpoint to that particular videos and see which videos are trending on that particular topic. Just pregnancy tips on YouTube, you can see the top 10 results, and you can just need to focus on those 10 videos, and target your geography also. Show this ad only to people in Bangalore or Mumbai. The towns
absolutely.
where, yes.
And one more thing, which this is my personal experience, because I have 2 children, And one of the things which works in this scenario, there's a lot of trust element which goes in the selling process, right? And the person whom the mother will trust most would be the gynecologist she is visiting regularly, right? So whatever she says is practically bought. This is more like an offline medium, really not an online. But I think what can be done is, let's say if you have a list of gynecologists in your area where you operate in, right? You can enroll them as your list subscribers, right? And you can tell them what is cool about what you do. So obviously, going and visiting a gynecologist is obviously an option. That's the old school MR kind of selling. But if you are able to enroll them, these are busy people. So I don't know what's their behavior. Personally, I'm not too much aware of it, but I think everybody has a phone now, and they should be looking at emails. I think it'll be a great way to tell them about what you do, and that would be one way to kind of put the name out about your own about your own business in front of those that audience. So I think such it could be hospital partnerships as well, other IVF centers, etc. Could again be extremely valuable.
Yes, essentially it's very important to first understand the target audience, and second to see where they learn the most.
Absolutely.
Your success depends upon how much you understand your customer and knowing the places where they are abundantly present. I think once you figure out these two things, then it's just that create an irresistible offer and launch.
Absolutely. We have another question. This is from Narasimha. What are the major channels ITES companies need to focus, like CAD, CAD, PLM solution provider, software reseller? So what I think Narasimha comes from an ITES background, as in he's marketing for ITES companies and product like CAD. So for those kind of companies, what would be your suggestions, RK, from an online branding standpoint?
The branding actually depends upon what the offer is. So it's for a company that I understand, but then by the looks of it, I would say the LinkedIn platform works really well for online branding, because he can start promoting or producing a lot of content on LinkedIn Pulse, and start very good engagement on. Maybe his target audience are also limited to one particular city. I'm not really sure. So it's so important to actually know what his offer is, and to whom his product is being targeted across. But to get started, I can definitely say that with LinkedIn you can get started for free by making yourself very available on groups, on Quora.com, and even on LinkedIn Pulse. That create a community around your products and services. If possible, create a community on LinkedIn, and be a thought leader, on giving a lot of free content away, and then find a way for them to come to your website, or a blog, and then there you can convert them.
Okay, cool. I think we are over the time now. It's almost 5-6 minutes over 4 p.m. So RK, while you I'd love to share a few final thoughts. So just one quick point for the audience before we go there. And so there are some questions which we have not been able to address here. So RK, you will need your help. Somebody will reach out to you from our side to kind of get some of your views there, so we can post these questions on our blog, right? So RK, if you'd like to share a couple of points before we close.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that you might think when I asked you about the sole reason of why your brand should exist. These are actually very powerful questions. So if you have time, or you need to create time for addressing to these answers, because without addressing to these things of your core existence, the whole branding exercise will not give you the results that you want. So if you are able to associate your brand or your business for a cause, for example, a learning or let's say an online course institute, they could relate their cause to the cause of entrepreneurship. So people who believe in entrepreneurship will associate with your brand. So it's so important to understand the cause or the belief or the reason for existence. So I think it's if there is one thing that I can do to leave you today, it would be to take a day off, go to somewhere else where people cannot contact you. Just shut yourself away from all the communications and interruptions, and think about your brands or your business's core cause and beliefs and the vision and mission, and write it down, and make sure that you communicate it with your audience or with your employees first, with your team members, and make them believe in your cause. And then your branding will be so easy because you are living your brand. So that's it for now.
Absolutely. I think that's a good, very good summary. And I hope people have taken their notes. Anyway, we'll be sending these recordings and presentations. So thank you, RK, very much for taking out time and sharing your sharing this presentation with our audience. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. You all have a great festival, and thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.